Hello, it is 5 a.m. in Washington. It's noon in Tripoli. I'm Monita Rajpal. You're watching World One. Also ahead. Running for cover in Spain, a deadly earthquake shakes the town of Lorca. Thousands of frightened people sleep on the streets. We begin in the Libyan capital Tripoli, where the compound of Muammar Gaddafi has come under renewed attack by NATO forces. 27 people were hurt in a series of rocket strikes early this morning. The government is accusing NATO of trying to take out its leader, but the alliance insists that's not true. A senior NATO officer says it is targeting military sites, not individuals. We want to bring in our correspondent on the ground, Nima El-Bagher. She joins us now from Tripoli. And Nima, tell us a little bit about these airstrikes and the damage that was caused.
Well, Monita, we have not yet been allowed to visit the Bab al-Azizia compound itself, but we're not that far from it.
Meantime, Syria's crackdown on its own citizens has intensified. There are reports tanks have been shelling residential areas and homes as terrified locals flee to Lebanon. Rima Maktabi is at CNN Beirut. She joins us now live. And Rima, tell us a little bit about the solidarity movements and the crackdown by the government forces that follow.
Monita, the crackdown is moving from one city to another. 3 weeks ago, it all started with Daraa, a province on the border with Jordan.
Right. Rima Maktabi in Beirut, thank you so much for that. And once again, we do apologize for those technical glitches that we had there. Now, meanwhile, pro-government supporters have rallied outside the U.S. embassy in Damascus. They waved Syrian flags and posters of President Bashar al-Assad. Thousands of residents of the Spanish city of Lorca woke up outside this Thursday morning after a 5.1 magnitude earthquake struck the city in southeastern Spain. At least 8 people were killed and dozens more were injured as houses collapsed. The quake also left historic churches damaged. Al Goodman joins us now from Lorca. And Al, we've been hearing and reading reports that many of these residents, although they said they know and they knew they live on a fault line, they never expected an intensity of this earthquake of such magnitude.
From buildings, including churches, it came tumbling down. Monita?
All right, Al Goodman there in southeastern Spain, thank you so much for that. Papers found in the compound where Osama bin Laden died are shedding new light on his role. The U.S. now says he was by no means retired from his leadership of al-Qaeda. A U.S. official tells CNN that bin Laden played a key part in command and control. This new view of the al-Qaeda leader comes from documents seized last week from his compound in Pakistan, where he was killed by U.S. commandos. The question of how bin Laden could have hidden in plain sight for so long remains a sore point between Pakistan and Washington. Today, Pakistan's president is working on his country's ties with Russia. Asif Ali Zardari is in Moscow for talks with Russian President Dmitry Medvedev. Senior international correspondent Matthew Chance joins us now live from our Moscow bureau. Matthew, I guess he may have had one idea of what the agenda should be for this visit, but I'm assuming that that's not the case anymore.
Well, I mean, certainly this is a trip that was obviously set some time ago, well before the killing of Osama bin Laden.
Welcome back. You're watching World One. Here are some of the stories that we're talking about. It seems nothing Lady Gaga does comes as a surprise anymore, even her surprise performances. Fans of the pop diva lined the streets on Wednesday, hoping to catch a glimpse of her ahead of an unannounced concert at the opening of the Cannes Film Festival. The star-studded event kicked off with a screening of Woody Allen's romantic comedy, Midnight in Paris. Is Hugh Grant the new Charlie Sheen? Well, the British actor has been approached by the makers of hit sitcom 2.5 Men, but talks with the British actor have reportedly stalled over what's being described as creative differences. 2.5 Men has been one man short ever since Sheen was fired for publicly insulting the show's producers. I think he'd make a pretty good one. And hats off to Princess Beatrice. She's helping the poor by taking advantage of her newfound fame as the owner of the world's most joked about hat. The royal's flesh-toned fascinator, seen here, is being put up for auction on eBay with proceeds going to children's charities. The headpiece grabbed headlines the moment it popped up at Britain's royal wedding, drawing comparisons to a toilet seat and an octopus. Well, the hat had the last laugh, though. It went on to gather a cult following, attracting well over 100,000 fans on its dedicated Facebook page. Barack Obama was apparently even seen wearing it, although only in a spoof photograph. Now, in the country of Spain, the Catalans have claimed yet another, what is it, crown? Is that what they're calling it in Barcelona?
Yeah, king of football, crown.
Oh, I like
Maybe
that.
they could have had Beatrice's hat. Was it Beatrice or Eugenie's?
Beatrice, I think, you know what, I have to say, it takes a lot of guts to wear something like that, so good for her.
I'd have hung on to it. The legend would have grown the longer she'd hung on to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, hello to you. Barcelona, Spanish football champions for the 3rd year running and for the 21st time in their history. Although
Acting career to fall back on.
Yeah, especially with that beard.
He had a couple of movies. I won't call them what they are, but, you know, had a couple of movies. Thank you very much for that, Alex. You're watching World One live from London. We return to Libya now, and we want to take a look at where the conflict stands as we speak. Rebels are reporting a key victory in the fighting in Libya. They say they've captured Misrata's airport, but this is being denied by the government. It comes as the leader of the Libyan National Transitional Council heads to the UK today for talks with the British Prime Minister. We want to get the latest on this with CNN's Sarah Sider, who joins us now from Benghazi. So basically, Sarah, thousands of miles from where you are, the the National Transitional Council will be hoping, I'm assuming, for, I guess, more logistical and resource support from the contact group.
Yeah, that is what they're going to be discussing, and the important points that the National Transitional Council are hoping to make. Basically, the NTC, as it's being called, is asking
Sarah Seidner in Benghazi. Thank you. This is World One live from London. Welcome back. The unsolved mystery surrounding Air France Flight 447 is back in focus today. The data recorders from the doomed flight are being brought home to Paris nearly 2 years after the Airbus 330 plummeted into the Atlantic, carrying 228 people. No one survived. We want to take a look now at how this disaster has unfolded at this point. It's been almost 2 years now. On June 1st, 2009, that's where we begin. The Brazilian Air Force, the 3 hours, I should say, into the flight from Rio de Janeiro to Paris, the Brazilian Air Force has its last radio contact with Air France 447. A short time later, the airline says its advanced passenger jet had crossed through a thunderous zone with strong turbulence. Fast forward 2 years later, in April 2011, investigators find hundreds of pieces of the doomed plane, including its torn-off tail. The success of this search mission comes nearly a year after the last search failed in May 2010. And a month later than that, just a week ago, came the discovery of some of the passengers' bodies still strapped into their seats, I should say. 2 were brought to the surface before judges in Paris say the rest should be left undisturbed at the bottom of the Atlantic. And now the flight data recorders were found on May 3rd, nearly 2 years since the crash. They have all been recovered by robot submarines, nearly 13,000 feet below the surface of the ocean. Of course, we will continue to keep you posted on the idea. Of course, we will hear more about the investigation. As we had mentioned, the black boxes have just arrived in Paris. We will hear more about, I guess, what they find that they're telling us on Monday. Of course, we'll bring you more as we get it here on CNN. Flooding in the U.S. sand in the U.S. And in China. Meteorologist Jennifer Delgado has got the details on the more unusual weather patterns this week. Jen.
Hi, Monita. You're right. We're talking about flooding as well as sand conditions through parts of China. But we'll start off right now with the flooding that's been happening across the U.S.
I was just going to say, it's certainly dangerous, but it makes for amazing pictures. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Jen, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
The allegations go back more than half a century. In a few hours, the accused John Demaniuk will learn whether he will be found guilty of the murder of 28,000 Jews. It's been a long-running trial in the German courts. Dinah Magnick takes us down the long road to justice.
In the year and a half he stood trial as an accessory to 27,900 counts of murder.
Here, the red carpet is out in Cannes as the year's edition of the famed film festival gets underway. A Woody Allen film, a romantic comedy set in Paris, opened this year's festival. Paris is also the setting for a far darker entry, though, a controversial documentary about the death of Princess Diana. Dan Rivers takes a look. And for the latest on all those stories, I'm Monita Rajpal. That's it from the team here on World One. Thank you for joining us.